Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will read to you from the book Stories of Don Bosco by Peter Lapp. A Climate of Saints. That's the one you read yesterday, correct? Or the day before? Alright, so today we're going to read Four Boys of Don Bosco. Of all the boys whose lives could be considered successful products of Don Bosco's oratory, the names which most stand out are Michael Magone, Dominic Savio, Michael Rua, and John Cagliero. These boys were so unlike each other in temperament, character, and background that anyone who could succeed with them so remarkably well must be considered a highly successful educator. Michael Magone. Michael Magone was born in a small town named Carmagnola. His whole family was caught up in the poverty cycle. The father had never been able to earn enough to support his large family, had already been in prison, and to all accounts Michael himself was on the way. His mother found it impossible to keep him at school or off the streets, so that he spent most of his time as leader of a gang of boys who nicknamed him the General. He was in charge of the gang when Don Bosco met him, and when Don Bosco came forward to speak to him, he boldly challenged Don Bosco's right to break up their game. Don Bosco succeeded in making contact with him, however, and it was not long before he had heard the boy's sad story. At 13, Michael had already been in trouble with the authorities, and during the years he had spent on the streets, he had learned what he himself called the trade of doing nothing. Don Bosco had to leave at that point, but before he left, Michael said something to him that pierced his heart. "Will you help me, Father?" For Don Bosco, there was only one answer to that. After settling down at the oratory in his own direct way, Michael told Don Bosco that he wanted to succeed, that he preferred to be a student rather than an apprentice, and ended with a startling announcement. "If a roughneck like me," he said, "could ever hope to become a priest?" Don Bosco at once assigned to him an angel guardian, another boy, to show him around and generally take care of him until he found his feet. This angel guardian faced the problems of persuading Michael to stop using the language he had picked up on the streets, of teaching him how to curb his temper, and of keeping him out of fistfights. Gradually, under the watchful eye of Don Bosco, Michael began to fit into the oratory way of life. To compensate Michael for the hours he spent cooped up in the classroom, he suggested the games which the boy loved, and at which he soon became expert. Slowly the climate of saints Don Bosco had created at the oratory began to take effect. Michael became aware first of the unhappy state of his soul, then of the difference between the state of his soul and that of the souls of the boys who surrounded him. Their conduct, their thinking, their whole approach was so different from his that it seriously upset him. The burden of his past became unbearable. He suffered a crisis that shook him. Finally, he ran to Don Bosco to unburden himself. This was the moment Don Bosco had been waiting for. In his usual easy and familiar manner, Don Bosco listened, guided, encouraged, and when it was all over, Michael emerged a completely different boy with a completely different outlook. To begin with, he no longer considered prayer a chore. He became punctual in his daily duties, earning praise both for his conduct and for his application. He began to assist those of his companions who needed help, even writing out their lessons for them when their fingers were stiff with the cold. He turned into an apostle, illustrating to a scoffer the power of the flames of hell by lighting a match under his fingers. Whistling into another's ear to stop his bad talk, and showing to the world at large his own devotion to Our Lady. Alright, so wait a minute. He illustrated to a scoffer the power of the flames of hell by lighting a match under his fingers. So he burned another boy. He would be in jail now for doing that. He grabbed a match and put it on. Oh, you don't believe hell is real? Put the flame under the other boy's finger.
Really? That's what he did?
Yes.
I thought it said he grabbed the match.
And put it himself. I thought it was himself, but it says here. And then he whistled into another's ear. Some of them knew how to whistle very loud.
Yeah, those two fingers.
Yes. To stop his bad talk and showing to the world at large his own devotion to Our Lady. It did not take long for Don Bosco, with Mickey's cooperation, now they call him Mickey, to transform the general into an example for the rest of the oratory. It was not God's will, however, that Mickey should live long. Perhaps he had brought him to the oratory just to prepare him for the final moment. Because when Mickey did come to die, the manner of his death moved and inspired the oratory. As far as Don Bosco was concerned, this was another successful life, for it had ended in the salvation of Mickey's soul. Alright, so we'll read tomorrow about a second boy.
It's kind of creepy though, because like everyone is dying under Don Bosco's hand, except Don Bosco himself.
In the life of Mother Teresa, the lady that was known as Mother Teresa, she would go, in the movie, she would go pick up homeless people and take them to a special building that used to be used for the Hindu gods, right? So there were men complaining, and there was a crowd that they were doing something wrong because it's a different religion. Well done, sir. It's a different religion, right? But when they walked inside and saw what she was doing, she was taking care of the people that were dying. They didn't want to hurt her. You know? So like, she picked up people. One of them, his stomach had rats.
What?
Yes, he was on the street dying. And then when he looked into her face, he said something, "I will die. I lived my life as an animal, but I will die as a man, thanks to you."
He had rats in his stomach?
He was lying on the street. In the street, they throw food out or whatever goes out on the street, on the sidewalk. There's no garbage people to pick up, right? So he was on the sidewalk on the street, and he had been there a couple of days already. He still hadn't died, maybe 2 days, or who knows. And there were rats already eating his stomach. There are also stories in the Bible about parents that ate their children, ate the babies, or ate the children. Yes?
Good.
It's a balloon.
Yeah. It pierced the Cheerio box.
It's a weapon then. Don't point it at me then. So it's a pen
Yeah.
that flies through.
Through the
I'll demonstrate it.
case.
Yes, I'll demonstrate it. So it's a balloon, and I'm holding also the pen. And it's got tape. on the
Yeah.
balloon. It's very easy to make. Well done,
Oh
sir.
yeah. And it goes pretty far.
Learn 10 things from this. For instance, God could grab
There you go.
that towel, hit the towel, or the pants.
Yeah, like a towel or a pants or anything like that.
God could grab that pen and make $1 million with it.
Mom, it stinks.
Turn on the air conditioner, Anna, please.
And I made another one where it's a little different than this one. It shoots BB bullets, but it's more easy to fit.
Well done, sir.
Basically, you put the baby foot in there. There's the casing, pen, tape. Pull it out.
I see. Let me see, sir. So you put the little BB in here, then you pull out the pen, and the pen acts as a piston and shoots it out. See? Here's.
I tried it twice. It's fun.
Well done, sir.
It's broken a little bit, but
It still works.
yeah, just pull it that much.
So there was a Russian scientist that was supposed to have built a box that he could stand on, and then he would fly all over the place. A wooden box. What was inside the wooden box? The wings that were special. He noticed that this insect did not fly.
Oh yeah.
The insect would be here, and then it would fly up. Like it knew where the yes, the insect would know where the power of the earth is, and as soon as it walked to a certain section, it would fly up. It has to do with electricity or magnetism. So the scientist died, but he wouldn't tell people which was the insect, because he had used many of their wings to be able to get himself to fly. And he didn't want the world to know, because then that insect would disappear. It would go extinct, because the humans would just use them.
I saw un gatito estaba like
Good night, my friends. Peace be with you. God bless you. God bless you and those that surround you.